Okay, so now we're going to look at some, I guess, ecologically sound practices and how we can reduce the number of tips that we send to landfill. In this video, we have a carousel. This is from a fraction collector, and we have about 40 fractions that were collected from this chromatography system, and each sample here has to be tested for whatever product is within the tube. And the standard practice is to use one tip per tube to minimize cross-contamination. And I'd like to show you how you can do the whole exercise using one tip and not having any cross-contamination. So of course we start with a clean tip, and we need to transfer, let's say, sample 1, 0.5 mils of sample 1 needs to be transferred to a tube that's in the rack containing some reagents. So in the standard practice, usually this would go to waste, but now all we have to do is rinse it twice. So we rinse it like beaker number 1, it's rinsed, then goes to waste, rinsed again, goes to waste, and at this point the tip is clean enough to go to your second sample. So you can go to the second sample, repeat the same exercise, 0.5, go to your reagents, and then repeat the rinsing procedure. And this way, with one tip, you can do your 40 samples. Okay. So if the 400 teams doing this exercise with the carousel do all their sampling with one tip, it means we've saved at least 60,000 tips for that one exercise. And this is one part of the lab, and for every single labs that we do in the second year program, we adopt this technique. We can very easily save from 75 to 100,000 tips. That's less plastic going to landfill, so it's a lot better for the environment. So when you finish sampling your 40 samples, at that point you can dispose of the tip. So you then simply put it in your bucket. So one goes in instead of 40, so only one goes to landfill. Okay. So I'd like to introduce you to another ecological practice. It's about reusing our disposable tubes. These are the borosilicate tubes, and you'll be using them on a daily basis, and every section will use at least 1,000 tubes per day that they're in. We have 8 sections per week, and this happens for 10 weeks. So this means that we would be disposing of about 80,000 tubes to landfill, and all these tubes can be reused, so this minimizes stuff going to landfill. All you have to do is, at the end of your day, when you're finished with these tubes, make sure the content is disposed in the proper waste container. Then you rinse it at the sink, and then you leave it upside down in one of these baskets, and then we'll take care of washing. And by the time you come back to the lab, these will have been washed and dried and will be reused. Okay? If we all do that, we will save at least 80,000 tubes per year. There's a cost-saving measure, and also the objective really is to minimize the impact on the environment. And many of the tubes you see here have been around for 3 years. So if they weren't here, it means that about 250,000 tubes would have been buried.